Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Nesara 17 channel. We are giving you a later in the month of December update, and we are very blessed and happy to have Aquarius Rising Africa with us today. So, hello, and thank you for joining us, taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, hello, Brock. It's such a cool experience to be here with you, and thank you so much for inviting me. Really, it's a privilege. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Likewise.
Yeah,
So,
indeed.
how are things down in South Africa? Our news is obviously censored here in the States, right? And we know that there's a patriotic force that's working to restore us as a republic and help other countries to do that. So that taken in mind, it seems like it's extra censored, in my opinion, on what's happening around the world. So
Right.
how's everything going down there?
Um, I want to say well, because in my little bubble, things are going well. But I want to say at the same time, it's very tenacious right now, to say the least, you know. There's a lot of violence that happens, particularly in the bigger cities, a lot of poverty. Um, I think we were just having a little chat off air, and what I was saying is, you know, South Africa and Africa generally, we've made out to be this third world little continent on the ass end of Africa where, you know, it's kind of scoffed at, and we are these sort of people that don't know much about what happens in life. That is so not true. Africa is the probably the richest continent in terms of minerals and wealth. America in particular has been using us as their grocery store for many, many, many moons. And the UK, we obviously
Hmm.
colonized, or when I say we colonized, I mean my ancestors are the colonizers as well, for sure. Although I certainly don't see myself in that light. It's quite weird for me to even think about that, because I honestly see myself as a protector of this continent. And what's important for me is to bring this information out. Um, so yeah, from the beginning, you know, we've been raped, we've been pillaged. The African people have been slaughtered and murdered. Apartheid was an absolute travesty of anyone's justice. However, the tables have turned a lot since then. But still, you know, our president is a complete puppet of the Oppenheimers and of the Ruperts, who are owned by the Rothschilds. I mean, this country's run and owned by the Rothschilds. There's no two ways around that. So we are owned, and we are corrupted. There's a lot of farm murders happening at the moment. So in other words, there's a
On
lot
the
of
farms, you said?
yes, absolutely. And there's, you know, even though people are being told that that's not true, I know Cyril Ramaphosa, who's our president, but actually he's not our president. He's the puppet for the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers, right? Although he acts as the president. He, a couple of years ago, saying, no, there's no issue, there's no farm. Rubbish. The farm murders are rife, rife, rife. That's the thing. They're destroying the farming community. And again, it's like what Gates is doing in America, right? Buying up all the farming land. So all the farming land is now being bought up by all sorts of foreign investors, et cetera, et cetera. And we know why that's happening, really. But yeah,
Because
there's a
they
lot
want
of
to attack
murders
the
happening.
foods? You think they want to attack the
Absolutely.
food supply?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, of course, that, you know, food is also getting very expensive here now. Things are really, I mean, since COVID has happened, prices have shot up astronomically, right?
Same
And
here,
it's, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's become very expensive. So the gap between those that have and those that don't have is growing bigger and bigger every day. But you know what? At the end of the day, we are an awake bunch of people. 69% of us refuse to take the jab,
Good.
which is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And that I've got to say, I give a lot of credit to the African people for that, because apartheid certainly taught us, or taught them, all about that. I'm not sure if you're aware, in the apartheid system, There was what they call the Dompas, the dumb pass, to give a direct translation. So in other words, the African people had to have a pass to walk around in the white areas. They were only allowed to be in there at certain times, right? So anything like that in this country right now will not be accepted. There will be riots through and through and through. And a lot of the African people are waking up. It is a well-known fact that in the 80s, the AIDS virus was actually injected into the African people via the smallpox vaccine, especially the smallpox vaccine. So it was supposed to wipe the African continent out. We know that.
And you
It's
you
common
believe it
knowledge,
was
yeah.
man-made?
Oh, hell yeah. I think not even a question in my mind. It was actually created in the 60s in UCLA from sheep, bovine, sheep and cattle, from the viruses from sheep and cattle. That's how they created the AIDS vaccine. And that was done in the 60s at UCLA. And then in the 80s, they started coming into Africa and all these little, in the rural areas with all these little pop-up clinics all over the show, and then pretending to, and that's how they got the African resources, I want to tell you, because what they did was then they said, okay, we will give you the smallpox vaccine. And then my numbers, I don't have them offhand with me, but there was a hell of a lot of African people that then contracted AIDS. And then, of course, America and the UK then said, okay, fine, well, now we will give you the antivirals, the antiretrovirals. That's going to cure it. But of course, that's going to cost you. So, of course, the African governments then needed the antiretrovirals to save their people from AIDS. And that's how 27 of the African countries then had to sign over their resources to the Americans and the UK in particular.
That's crazy.
Because of this whole AIDS thing. It was supposed to wipe Africans out. It is a well-known fact. There are these guys from the apartheid era, the apartheid military. I mean, I'm a product of apartheid South Africa. I grew up in the height of apartheid, and this was what they were doing in the 80s.
And that ended in when, 1990?
Yeah, Nelson Mandela was released from prison in 1990, but we also know Nelson Mandela was far from the saint he was. He was an Oppenheimer
Right.
puppet. Many people say that he actually wasn't even the same person that went in. And I believe that because Winnie Mandela, his wife at the time, divorced him shortly after he came out of jail. And she said the man couldn't even speak proper Xhosa, which is his home tongue, right? He
Right,
was
his
now
native
speaking
tongue.
Zulu.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a well-known fact. And then, of course, he was living in an Oppenheimer mansion, I do believe, in Cape Town. So a
Wow.
lot of the African people understood that this guy is not for us. Yeah, they
I'm sure
all, I
you've
mean, they're all, hmm.
I hate to digress, but I'm sure you've heard of the Mandela effect, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So I believe time travel is real, and that basically the Mandela effect is a byproduct of them changing something in the past, and it's affecting our future. I can remember,
definitely.
I was a little kid when that happened, but I can clearly remember walking through a grocery store and seeing one of those newspaper magazine things saying Mandela was dead. Do you ever remember that?
No way. Well, it depends. I mean, some people believe that he died in prison, right? And others believe he died. Oh, when did he die? Like now, recently, a couple of years ago. For me, he died a couple of years ago. He came out of prison on the 11th of February, 1919. My birthday's on the 10th of February, so I remember that very well. He did not die in prison. He died many years later. I don't even remember the proper day that he died on anymore, to be perfectly honest. But it was recently, within the last 10 years or so. Yeah. He
Do
died
you
when
think,
Zuma was in power.
right? Do you think it's out of the realm of possibility for them to have let's rule out, let's get away from time travel for a minute and say maybe they killed him in prison because they didn't like him and replaced him with a clone?
Oh, definitely. I definitely believe that's probably what happened. The I remember listening to Gene Decode not too long ago, and Gene Decode was talking. He said he remembered Mandela, and they supposedly he hanged himself in prison.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what was one of the stories that of Mandela. But the Mandela effect is very interesting. I mean, if you we actually did a show on it not too long ago with Caleb Jade on Aquarius Rising Africa, and was speaking about how they actually do that. Because they do go back in their time
And
jump. It's
change
like they,
something?
yes, absolutely, absolutely. They can't change the future yet, although they try. When you're looking at how when you're speaking like to the likes of Jesse Zaberta, who's been in the system, and they would do like I think the one was the voice of God, the Looking Glass, and the
Yep.
three of these that the kids literally and then they would do predictive programming like through the Simpsons
Yes.
and South Park. So then they would predict what they wanted it to happen, what the probable outcomes were that the kids had seen, because some of the kids had to
Okay.
work together, right? The kids had to work together in terms of one group was to see this part, the other one to see that part, the other to see that part. So it all had to link together, and then they would do the probable outcome. And me, I work with energy. I'm a healer.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
energy goes where attention flows, right? So
Yep.
let's say they then predicted, like in South Park or The Simpsons, whatever it was, Trump was president then and the Queen died then or whatever. So let's say 10 billion people are watching a TV show saying Trump is president. Boom, you create that. So they know these guys are so smart. They know exactly how energy works and how to create that for themselves. So they've tried all these things over time. That's how they create their probable futures. But they can go
Okay.
back and change that. And that's why the whole Mandela effect. I know there was that movie Shazam and something else. And yeah, and the
Did you ever see
Bernsteins.
Jumper?
No,
Okay. It was basically a time travel movie too, but
right.
anyways, yeah, I mean, have you ever talked with Gene? Gene is a great guy, but he talks about
I would love to
basically,
talk with Gene. I would love to talk
okay.
with Gene. I haven't spoken to him, no, but I'd love to.
I'll see if I can pair you up.
I'd love
But
that. Thank you.
you're welcome. Have you ever like seen anything like, he talks about all the tunnels and stuff. Have you seen anything or heard anything around that, being that you're a local in South Africa?
Oh, I've heard a lot around that. I mean, there were times where there was lots of explosions and things happening around that. NASA's yeah in South Africa at the moment. The Western Cape has been sold, which is the area I live, and it's the most beautiful coastline. As the rumor has it, it's been sold to the Bezos Fund or used as collateral for the Bezos Foundation by the guy that that runs the Democratic Alliance, who is the political party in control. Yeah, but interesting because one of my behind the scenes. I talk to a lot of SRA survivors and things, and very, very few South Africans are willing to actually come out and speak about that, right? Which is I'm always forever trying to entice the South Africans to speak, but very, very few will. However, one of the people that I spoke to behind the scenes for a long time is an ex-Rhodesian, which is now Zimbabwe. She would probably be early 50s now, around about 50, around about that age. And her father, they were living in Rhodesia, and she was the one that told me how they were using the mine shafts, right? The mine tunnels and things as to traffic the kids. That's where the kids were being
From
trafficked.
mining diamonds, you mean?
Well, no, obviously the mine shafts where they had been mining and these tunnels were used to traffic the kids. There was apparently hundreds and thousands of kids being trafficked through the mining tunnels. So lots of people have actually told me that South Africa. Well, when I say lots, the ones that have been willing to speak to me um, behind the scenes. Mm-hmm.
So we know that Africa is a huge, huge continent, and it's often misrepresented in maps and stuff. But
Oh yeah.
there's all different areas of climates, and there's even one area I think it's a couple countries north on your western coast. and they said you can literally walk on the beach and pick up diamonds. Have you ever heard about that?
That could be the Congo. They're talking about the Congo, the DRC, Rwanda, that area. Yes, I have heard that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the Congo, if we're looking at the Congo, and I think it is the Congo you're referring to, it is absolutely disgusting what happens there. Absolutely disgusting. That's where they're doing the child mining, or the
Child
child
labor?
slavery. Yeah, child labor, and women as well. Not too long ago, I did a show on how these women were bringing their kids in bags, literally, and toddlers. We're not talking babies or newborns,
Ooh,
toddlers in bags, giving them to these guys to traffic. I mean, and they're like opening these little kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, getting out, just like, you know, it is absolutely insane. But the Congo
that's
or the
disgusting.
DRC, yeah, it's absolutely shocking. They were colonized by Belgium. Leopold, I think, was his name, and the most horrific crimes against humanity committed by him, right? And those
Right.
mines, those diamonds are still being mined there, and they are still being sent to Belgium, and they are being cut in Belgium as well. So these are what we refer to the blood diamonds, and it would be the Congo,
Exactly.
Rwanda, Uganda, those areas up there. And also, when you look at Ellen DeGeneres, and I also did an arrow drop the other day, Ellen DeGeneres owns her Rwanda chimpanzee sanctuary up there. And you want to know how badly our chimps are, gorillas, rather, sorry, not chimpanzees, gorillas, are trafficked. You know what I mean, how
Why do
disgusting
they
these
do
people,
that?
because they are being trafficked, they're used in the system for bestiality, for
Oh God.
oh yeah, Oprah Winfrey is the queen of, she runs the primate prostitution ring. No, that's a whole different. It
Good
is
God.
disgusting. Yeah, no. There's a whole different realm of obscenity that happens. Ellen
Oh my God.
DeGeneres is just a. She is a cover, and I did a show on that a couple of weeks ago, and you see who all the board members are. Not one African person, all of them zoos, and all of these gorillas get trafficked to the zoos all over America, all over Europe, to Russia, all these
Wow.
places. Disney is the most disgusting place ever. No, oh, don't get me started on them with our animals. Of course, I've got
Well,
a heart for the
Ellen,
animals.
yeah, I know. I love animals too, but except for alligators.
Oh, crocs,
But
yeah. Got to walk carefully around there, right?
yeah, and when I'm fishing, I always throw a rock in the water first to make sure there's not a gator
Make
in
sure.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
But Ellen, yeah, I think it was 2020, maybe somebody released 19 or 20, somebody had a photo and she was sitting on her couch and she had an ankle bracelet on and she covered it with sweatpants. So I said, "Oh, they know, they went after her,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?"
Well, isn't it interesting that this frazzle drip, the whole frazzle
Yes,
drip,
I
what
know
that's
about
like.
that. Yes.
Yeah. She has a frazzle drip hoodie. And have you seen the new King Kong movie? It's called Bow Down to Your King. Oh my goodness, I must find that. I must find that. And it's the picture, it's very similar, this gorilla face with this bloody hand. The whole logo is like that. And it's like resembles very strongly Frazzle Drip. Now, I'm saying to you that they're using our gorillas in that way. I mean, if you listen to some of my interviews with Jesse as well, it's the most depraved way.
Are
What they're
you
doing.
are
Hmm?
you thinking that they're using animals for adrenochrome now?
Yes, yes, as well, definitely.
Because they can't get the kids because they're rescuing the kids?
Yeah. Yeah. What happened
Wow.
was, what they're also doing, and what Jessie was saying to us, is that yeah, she's actually mentioned this a few times, in the system. They would have a female gorilla, okay, and they would implant a human embryo inside of her. So that the human baby, because it's 99% human DNA. So the human baby grows inside of her. She therefore gives birth to a human baby. Now, then you have the male gorilla, who's now her mate, and he will immediately realize, no, 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 that's not my baby. So the two of them have this fight about this baby. This child gets ripped to smithereens because the male is now obviously not happy with this, and the female goes into complete depression because as her baby's just being killed. So this is how these guys, and they'll like sit and watch this from like an arena. They watch this
That is
happen.
so
They sit.
disgusting.
It is so depraved. But the gorillas, yes, and they've got animal armies. They've got gorilla armies that are MK Ultra and everything. I mean, this is the
Well, it
planet of
wouldn't
the
surprise
apes.
me if they put a microchip in their head and would try to remote control them. That would not surprise me at all.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's like Planet of the Apes is it's no joke. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
real.
real.
They're showing us all the time what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw a study the other day. I was just looking into animal strength and stuff because I was watching the animal videos on YouTube. And I think that they said the strongest guy ever could bench press around 800 pounds, and a gorilla could do like 3,000. Like
Yeah,
they were like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times stronger than a human man. So, you know,
absolutely.
what the animals are capable of is nothing less of impressive. And it's just disgusting that they're doing that to them.
It is. I mean, when you're looking at the orangutans, the chimpanzees, and the gorillas, those are the three main primates that are used for this whole prostitution ring and
Disgusting.
sexploitation, they call it, the animal sexploitation. No, it's
That's
absolutely
disgusting.
obscene. Yeah. No,
I
we're
bet
living.
you that our Heavenly Father is even more disgusted than we are.
I cannot imagine how God can even for 1 minute even not choke on that. I mean, to
Right.
see what these guys are capable of and the things that they are doing, and that's why I'm so grateful, Brock, for people like yourself as well. I know, you've told me a little bit about your background, just that is not afraid to expose these things and just to come out there and just speak about what is truly going on. And the world needs to know it's not a joke. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore. We see it. I know it. I know the spiritual attacks I'm under from these creatures of the night often. And I see the ways in which they try and reach me spiritually. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the ass end of Africa. So I've certainly had an attempt on my life before. Yes, once.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah.
Well, we're going to be
But
praying for divine protection over you and all of your friends.
thank you so much.
I
Appreciate
believe that
that.
the Lord can do that.
Oh, definitely. I do believe that's why I'm standing strong and living to tell the tale, and I will not shut my mouth. I won't, but I will carry on. The more obscene things I hear, the more I'll speak about it. It's
Well,
so unbelievable. Mm,
the Lord said the power of life and death is in our tongue. He's telling us how powerful our voice is, obviously, to mind our words and not speak negatively to our friends and family. That's
right.
true, of course, but also he's telling you your words have power. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's why likewise, I'm glad that we met up and are doing this show. But
Yeah,
I'd like to kind of twist it a little bit into a different realm. Again, with the Africa theme, the minerals and all of everything that Africa has is just, ungodly high, right? And the
right.
fact that they're stealing all of it is just crazy. But I
Absolutely.
believe that they're going to come out with a new financial system that's going to be resource based. And I think with that, good people like myself and yourself and others could totally change around countries that have been, pillaged, like the Congo with all their diamonds. Diamonds are used in cutting materials and all types of laboratory equipment. They're used
Yes,
everywhere, not just to look pretty on a woman's hand. They're used industrially as well, and
right.
they're probably going to be used more the same as silver and gold. And a lot of these countries have those resources. So if we could get the evil out of there, they could prosper like no other.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. I fully agree. You know, when we're looking at the original colonizers in Africa and especially South Africa, their main aim was to get gold and diamonds. And you know, when you're looking at gosh, what were the first mining companies? Ah, just I've hit a blank now.
De
Everyone knows
Beers?
it. De Beers was one, yes, absolutely. De Beers. De Beers was the first mine. I don't know if you've ever heard of an author called Wilbur Smith. He's a South African
Yes.
author.
Yes, I
Wow.
was. And on just a brief history, I had an uncle who was in the precious metals and the diamond trade and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and he was trying to do things above board, and they went after him because he was trying to do things the right way.
And
He
you're not going
actually,
to
he
find that.
actually,
Yeah.
he went there to Africa to try and go directly to the source and bring it back, and then they actually charged him with a crime. Can you
That's
believe that?
does not surprise me at all. It does not surprise me at all. And what happens is the three-letter agencies have come in here, and through the Bush Wars, right? They brought the three-letter agencies in. In fact, I know someone who was the go-between between the three-letter agencies and the African royal families. And that's what they've done. So they get these guys to then come and buy over the royal families because each of the royal families own parts of whatever their region and the minerals and the wealth within that region, right? And there's not just, I mean, we know mainly, I mean, I know what the Zulu people, they like the main royal families, but there are lots and lots of tribal royal families
Sure.
as well. So what they've done is they send their guys in and then they corrupt them in whichever way, and that's how they take out the wealth as well. So it's not just done through mining, it's done through corruption of the royal families. And they send, as I said, the three-letter agent, and all through the Bush Wars, right? They are coming here creating the chaos and drama, and in the name of peacekeeping missions and crap like that, right? And they'll come there and they create their drama. And in fact, I'm busy looking into the WWF now, the World Wildlife Foundation, which was started by Prince Philip, right, as well as King
Right.
Bernard of the Netherlands, and they were the ones that started this genocide on our animals as well as the people. You're going to see I'm going to be doing another drop on that in the next couple of days.
Have you seen
It's
what
disgusting.
Zimbabwe's been doing?
Recently, what do
Yeah,
you
with
mean by
their
that?
parks. Well, no, just they're setting up their parks and doing stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Oh
They're
yeah.
trying to make everything better.
Yeah. Look, Zimbabwe to me, that's ex Rhodesia, obviously, yes. And when you look at the Zimbabwe ruins, it's sitting on a very, very sacred ley line. So
Right.
Zimbabwe, I'm not surprised Zimbabwe is under so much attack. And yet, you know, and I can understand why Robert Mugabe, who's now dead, but was also usurping power for more than 40 years, he hated the British. He absolutely hated them. But make no mistake, he himself stole from his people in the worst, most atrocious ways. I mean, he was probably one of the wealthiest people on this African continent, if not the wealthiest. And I mean, Swiss bank accounts and homes all over Europe and
Right.
wherever. But his people couldn't even. I mean, my aunt lives in Zimbabwe. In fact, she's just been there now. Everything is in dollars. You know, you got to buy in dollars now.
Yeah,
I mean, they are going in there and they are starting to try and fix things up again. But you
exactly.
know, it's taking a while. Um, I think the African people have been so beaten down, and it breaks my heart because the African people have been sold so cheaply to the rest of the world, like they are these
Yes.
stupid prehistoric creatures that know nothing. And that is the biggest lie ever. They are unbelievable. I mean, when you look at trafficking, the kids trafficking, that's why the African people are so widely trafficked, because A, they've got unbelievably strong connections to their ancestors, right? The way they dance, the way they move, the way they sing, it is unbelievably beautiful. They've got such an energy and an essence about them that can never, ever, ever be destroyed. So they'll rather try and steal it. So they make African people out to be these stupid, minimalistic people that have no idea how to do anything. African people are born farmers. They are people of the earth. If you look at the average African man, he's a big, strong man. They are there, they know exactly what they need when they need. They look at the stars. They know exactly when the rain's coming, when the weather is changing, when everything is going to be. I mean, you look at the Khoisan or the Bushman people. They're the earth's most ancient tribes. They're still around here, right? And you want to see how they absolutely took those people in the bush wars and they corrupted them and they weaponized them against their own people. It's disgusting. I mean, it breaks my heart when I look at what's happened to. There are still many first tribes here in Africa, but they've been pushed to the furthest side of the countries. I mean,
Right.
I do a lot of work in Namibia. Namibia forms, if you look at Namibia, it is absolutely beautiful. It forms part of Earth's original crust. So that's where the original Bushmen or Khoisan people are still living, and lots of
Oh,
the
wow.
First Nations tribes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And my very good friend, she's actually doing a PhD right now on the First Nation people. In fact, I've also done some interviews with her. So it might be interesting if people are interested in that. Her name is Yana Smith. I've done a lot of stuff where we've spoken about what the work she's doing and how these people have been corrupted and just absolutely pushed to the side of the earth or the country where there's nothing, there's no resources, no nothing. They're not even allowed to hunt anymore. The meat is
Really?
brought to. Oh yeah,
Wow,
everything
that's
is in
crazy.
reserves. Yeah, no, it's horrible. It's horrible what they've done, Brock. It's horrible, horrible,
Have you
really.
you're into healing and stuff, and the past few years I've been, studying herbs and stuff like that, like what can help heal your body. Um, have you learned anything from them as far as natural healing stuff?
Oh yeah, very much. Especially when I like definitely the Khoisan and the Bushman way of doing it. They have a scaletium. I don't know, you guys might know it there. It has become scaletium is the Bushman plant actually. It's very, very medicinal. So a part
I
of my
haven't heard
healing
of
work
that.
is, yeah, scaletium, and it's a plant that they now they crush up as well. And it's like, for example, the Bushman, let's say the night before the father will take his son on a hunt, they would do their ritual and they dance and around the fire, they sing, and then they call in the spirit of the animal, usually the eland, right? Or the giraffe. Those would be the main two
Oh,
animals that the
wow.
Bushmen are working with. And then once that spirit is entered, they then know that that animal has agreed to be their food, right? So
Wow.
and then they will take scaletium. It's almost like an hallucinogenic almost for them, depending on how you use it. And then they go out and they will always hunt with the bows and arrows that they make. And then the roots as well. There's certain roots that they use that will paralyze the animal, right? That's the only way they're gonna hunt is that way. They don't hunt with big rifles and things anymore, or ever did really. But then they will shoot the animal with a bow and arrow, and it will paralyze it for, let's say, 2 or 3 hours. And they are masterful trackers. So they will run, literally run for days on end. They're known for that. So then they will get the animal, and if they will chase it until they can get it. They will not leave a wounded animal. That is one thing that goes against their culture completely. And also, if they don't get to it on time, the animal gets up and runs away after the poison has worn off. Right? So then it's a fair game for them, right? But they have this unbelievable ESP, this this ESP that they
Wow.
have. So when they get the animal, they use each and every part of the animal. And within a day, the entire tribe is there. Mothers, daughters, kids, babies, everything is there. And they're celebrating this animal. They're singing over it as they're cutting it up and what have you. I go, oh my gosh, that must be the happiest giraffe to be dead, right? Because it's being so celebrated. I mean, I don't even eat meat because I just don't like it. I don't like to kill anything. But I mean, I so understand the way they do that, right? So that's the type of energy, that's the type of beings we're dealing with here. And I know there's a lot of other, I mean, I know the Native Americans have a similar way of doing things. I know
Yeah, they
as
do.
well the
Yep.
Australian Aboriginals all the First Nation people, right, have this way of doing things. And that is
Oh,
why, in
yeah.
my opinion, the First Nation people are the ones that they are trying to eradicate because they can't have those people around.
Well, not only that, but some of them have such a strong spiritual connection, to the
Exactly.
creator that it's like obvious, Again, not all of them, but and then they have recent studies with the Native Americans, in the United States that some of them could have been from the original tribes of Israel. So, that's
Right.
just really interesting stuff.
Right.
We're
Absolutely.
yeah, the one thing I was thinking of that I learned with the herbal remedies was I learned that oregano can cure help your stomach. So,
Yes.
when the virus was going around and stuff, I learned about the oregano and I would take drops of it and just chug it in a shot glass and it would calm my stomach. So
Wow,
it
that's
was like,
amazing. Yeah,
why am I taking other medicine when I have an upset
exactly.
stomach or flu when I can just take this oregano? It does the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's the same thing if we're looking at marijuana, when we're looking at the medicinal way of marijuana now, making the oils and stuff. I mean, I'm a great believer in that. I believe that's God's holy herb. Obviously, you're not going to sit here smoking joints until the cows come home and like laying flat out on the couch. I mean, for some people that might be cool, and hey, who am I to judge? But what I'm saying is, when you're taking that and you're turning it into medicine, I know there
Yep.
was a 4-year-old boy I was working with. He could not talk. This child could not talk, and then I gave him the stuff, and I obviously just did it in a after 3 days in a
Oil?
control. After 3 days, this kid was speaking, man. He was
Wow,
speaking.
that's
Suddenly,
amazing.
yes. But I also
Yeah,
do it with prayer, and
I
and
have a
for
lotion that
me,
has the oil in it.
yeah, honestly, it works. It absolutely works. And around where I live, there's a lot of guys who make it themselves around here because it's become legal medicinally in South Africa now as well. So stuff like that, I'm a great believer in. Uh, Obviously in moderation. It's not, and I just think food is your medicine as well. So what you eat, what you put into your body speaks volumes. If you're just going to be drinking Coke
Absolutely.
and what have you, it's not going to be good. I'm a great believer in the frequency medicine as well. The
Yep.
Rife machine and stuff like that. I think everything, different strokes for different folks. But I think the more we go back to the natural way of doing things, and it's very interesting, there's a big thing on med beds and stuff, and I cannot for 1 second agree to that because I know how they're charging the med beds now. When we're speaking to people like Caleb Jade, for example, they will tell
Why
you
don't you
exactly
like
what,
med beds?
because it's charged with the crystals that are basically soul gems, and that's captured souls, and they serve as
Why?
batteries like that. And that's how they do it. That's how
So
they do
you
it.
think you
That's
think that all crystals have captured souls in them?
No, not all of them, but when it's used for that sort of thing, that's for the nefarious purposes, yes, then they would use that in that way. It's very interesting
I
when we
was
start
I was
looking at
under
this.
the assumption that they would just make a frequency that would cancel out whatever was going on. There was a guy back in the 50s that discovered you could hit tumors with a certain frequency and just make them go down to nothing. So
You
I
see, I
thought that's
also,
what they were doing.
I think as a healer, one thing for me is very important is that we take responsibility for our body. Our bodies are designed to heal themselves. So yes, there are certain things, like when we're looking at, for example, SRA survivors and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff is imposed upon them. But I also think that, just us, that we want to go and climb on a med bed, because human beings we've been dumbed down. We've been given foods, all sorts of things. I believe the reason why we've gotten to this point is because we've become a very narcissistic planet. Quick fix, quick this, quick, everything, right? We've lost our connection to earth. We've lost our connection to God. We've lost our connection to our healing abilities. So when we actually tune back in, we start growing our own food again. We start looking at, in our communities, our kids that are being trafficked. We start reconnecting with each other again. That, for me, your body is designed to heal itself. The human body is designed to heal itself beyond a shadow of doubt. So I think as well, when we're going to go for things like that are the quick fix, then we're going to find ourselves in trouble. I think there is certainly ways that we can do it. Why what? Why do we find ourselves in trouble?
Yeah, if everybody's healed and feeling great, then there would naturally be prosperity out of that. If I'm feeling great, I can get a lot more done than if I'm not.
Now, I'm a great believer in feeling great, make no mistake. But if we again going to give our power away to something else, like in the past, we gave our power away to doctors and big pharma, right? That's how we got ourselves to where we are in many ways. If we just look at, for example, I don't know if you listen to Jerry Marzinski, who's actually worked with schizophrenic patients. And it's not actually voices in the head, it's demonic entities that are attached to them. Now, then you speak to people Caleb Jade, who studied the arcane, he will tell you exactly how they get that. He'll say 95% of people in mental institutions or mental wards like that with schizophrenia are literally
demonic influence.
Yeah, and they do it. The arcane does it. They actually, and I mean, I don't want to speak about how they do it. Yeah. So when we understand how it's done, we then reclaim our power back, right? And it's the same thing with medicine, in my opinion. I've seen it happen too often that people are giving again their power away. We have to take responsibility for what made us sick to begin with, right? That's
what about if somebody had like a spinal cord injury and they couldn't walk or something?
Well, I would say your body is designed to heal itself. And then you can go and say, okay, well, your spine, if you look at the part of the body that is your spine, it's the support. Where have you felt unsupported in life, right? Bodies, never, ever, nothing is ever by accident. So when you go there and when you've taken responsibility for that part of your body and understood where you yourself have felt unsupported in life and what has created that to begin with. But remember, even if you come in as a baby, you might be a baby in human form, but your soul is certainly not a baby, right? Your soul knows exactly what it's experiencing in this life. Then, through God's grace, you are healed. Your body heals itself. You don't need to get onto a med bed or anything else. You can have things that support you, tools that support you for sure. I'm a great believer in having tools that support you, but not that it does it for you. We're going right back into the opposite then, like giving our power away to big pharma, as we have for so long. And now someone's saying, oh, he has a med bed that you can go lie on, it's going to heal yourself. I'm going, no, no, I wouldn't look at that.
While we're kind of like talking about things that may come out in the future, what do you see? This is a broad question, but what do you see for like the next 10 years for Africa? Let's say that things go well, we get Mr. Trump back and we get people, we start suppressing the evil. What do you see happening?
Firstly, I don't want to say we've got to suppress the evil. The evil has been suppressed for long enough. The evil has got to be dug up and brought into the light. Because the minute that, we bring things into the light, that's when it loses its power over us. So it's difficult to say, I would love to say the more and more of us that are aware of these things, the more of us who no longer choose to actually play dumb and turn our heads away from what is happening, that for me has got to be the first thing that starts. Because there's been so much division and conquering on this continent, especially in South Africa, where apartheid has done a fantastic job of dividing and conquering us. And although I've got to tell you, before apartheid ended, we had a referendum, right? The white people in Africa had a referendum, or South Africa had a referendum. 94% of us voted to end apartheid. We are probably the least racist country around right now. I will vote that when it comes to white people in South Africa, we are the least racist. I'm not saying there aren't racists around. There will always be, I think, wherever you go. It's the tables have turned now. So you're getting lots of African people that are super angry and they hate the white people because of what our ancestors did to their ancestors. But I think that's a normal, like, flip of the scale, right? We're always going to find that for a while. But I would love to see, I mean, I look at my son, he was known as Mandela's matrix. In other words, he was of the first intake from grade 1 that had both white and black kids in their class. I mean, my son's weighing nearly 40 already. But you know, when you're looking at that, those children that have grown up together. I mean, I had African kids in my house playing, you know. I grew up with African people on the farm. They were my friends. I didn't even know what apartheid was. I mean, when I had to go to school and my best friend on the farm couldn't come to school with me, I was devastated. And I said to my mother, why can't you come to school with me? And my mother actually had to sit me down at the age of 5 and tell me that black people were not allowed. And that was very, very strange to me. And I said, well, why can't we paint her white? I wanted to paint her white and take her to school with me. It was crazy. It still breaks my heart to think about that. But what I did do was I came back, and every weekend, because I was at boarding school, every weekend I brought her my homework. So she would do my week's homework with me. And I, in that way, taught her how to read and write. So every weekend as a kiddie, because the African people were not allowed to be educated. Well, it's not like they weren't allowed to. There was no schools for them. And if there were schools, they were like farm schools. And I remember our neighbors was a teacher, and she taught the African people on the farm as well. So there were some of them, but it was not a compulsory thing the way that it was for white people. But that's what they wanted us to do, right? They wanted to keep African people uneducated because they said, no, they're not educated. You know, they can't be educated. They're stupid. And they told us that their skulls are thicker than ours. A whole lot of crap. Like we grew up. Yeah, we grew up brainwashed. You know, in as much as what everyone was brainwashed, the white people in this country were brainwashed to believing that blacks are inferior to us. We were taught they're inferior, they're different to us. I mean, that's what we were.
They are different, but they're definitely not inferior.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But in that way, yeah. And that they were more ape-like. That's what we were taught. It's insane. And I mean, it's embarrassing to say that, but that's pretty much what our narrative was.
So you think that they can overcome that and get, you know,
I do believe.
True freedom?
I do believe. Honestly, I do believe. I believe that apartheid has taught us all a lot. I do believe that if you look at the rest of Africa, it's not the same as South Africa. There's not anger and violence and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of Malawians come and work in South Africa, and I've got a lot of Malawian friends. I mean, their whole nature is very different to the South African people because they haven't been subjected to apartheid, right?
Sure.
Although they've been colonized, and it's always the white man that has the money. So you're kind of working for the white man, but it's not really in the same way that it was here. So there's a lot of South African colored people, black people, white people that are certainly being uplifted. And we connecting. We like each other. We really actually like each other. The only thing is now we've got to get these fat, disgusting politicians out here who have corrupted our leaders, stolen our resources, and made sure that we've been divided in that way. They're trying to conquer. But I think there's enough people waking up to realize that it doesn't have to be that way. In the next 10 years, yes, I definitely see that there could be great pathways for new beginnings, for sure.
I feel the same way here. You know, if you put a bunch of kids together that are all different races, they'll just play with each other, you know. We are
Totally.
naturally, that's how we are naturally. You know, the
Yeah,
racism has to be taught, in other words. You know, if you
exactly.
just grow up with neutral, then nobody will care, you know. So I feel the same way about this country. I think we're it's going to be rough, but we're going to be on the right track. So I feel like you know, our previous president could have brought us together more, and he didn't do that. And once people wake up and realize how much the media and everybody's lying to them, then we can really work together. And that's what I'm working on and you're working on.
Exactly. How is it in America in terms of like the whole this? I know that there's such a crazy thing. There's been literally such an attack on the American people, with this whole transgenderism thing, and this
Big time.
emasculation of men and stuff like that. How is it there now? Do you see it changing?
Yeah, it is a big attack on there. I mean, if you go to a Democrat or liberal quote unquote city, you'll see, in my opinion, you'll see more transgender people. But you know, with the race thing, I have only been called a racist by other white liberals. I have worked with blacks and Hispanics and Oriental, Chinese, Korean, anything, Indian. I don't care. If somebody respects me, we're good. But the only time somebody has ever used the R word on me, they have been white and saying that what I said was the R word. I said, wait a minute. I will say the same exact thing to my black friend, and they don't have any problem with it. And you're telling me that my thoughts are, you know, racist. So really, they have been programmed because they hear it in the news so much. Once they wake up, and they are able to realize that somebody's pushing an agenda on them, I think we'll be doing well. Some of them are waking up. The COVID, you know, pandemic helped wake some folks up. But I think that because the media keeps saying it over and over again, eventually they're just going to say, you know, I'm done. I'm not believing that anymore. And we're getting close to that.
I think that's a great, yeah, I definitely think that that's kind of like where we're moving. I really, really think that we are. I really, really think that we are. And I think it's great that that's happening there. Yeah, I think more and
Yeah,
more
we're
of us
getting
are.
there.
Yeah,
we we need to get Mr. Trump back in and start cleaning up house of all the corruption.
absolutely. Jeez, yeah, as well. My word. My whole thing as well, when I started this channel and I was speaking to, especially to the Americans, is because I knew if it's happening in America, it's happening here, for
Yep.
sure. Of course, South Africa, especially, we use as guinea pigs. So whatever is
Right.
happening in America is their first try and test it. Yeah, that's why South Africa is super modern. I mean, we have everything you guys have, right? And you go to our
Yes,
neighboring countries, you're not going to find that. But it's because we used as guinea pigs in Africa.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's unfortunate, but I feel good about the future. And
Yeah.
you know, one day I'd love to go over there and help people. But have you ever heard of Kim Clement?
No.
Okay, Kim Clement was a prophet that was from South Africa, and
Oh,
he had a
yes.
yeah, he had a lot of stuff
Yeah.
um about the United States, but he had a few things about Africa as well. And he said eventually it's going to begin to prosper.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, I do believe it's been spoken many times that South Africa in particular is the breadbasket for the world. And I have no doubt about that. I think we've gone through so many hardships here, as it is. I honestly think apartheid has taught us, in as much as what they try to divide and conquer us with that disgusting concept. I don't even know what to call it.
Ideology.
Ideology. You're right. Um, there were certainly way too many people that suffered under that for sure. But I think it's at the end of it, it strengthened us in a unified way. It really, really has. I think there's been so many attempts to destroy our continent and to destroy our people and to destroy our friendship we have with each other. But it's not happening. It's definitely not happening. And I do believe we have what it takes to unify. And once we are unified in so many ways, I think life is going to be very different here. And as I say, we're very minerally wealthy.
Oh,
We
yes.
are not only do we have superb white farmers, we have superb black farmers. We generally are a farming nation. We're
Right.
resourceful. We've got fantastic coastlines. We're a beautiful country that is I mean, it's actually the most underpopulated country or continent on the planet,
Right.
despite what everyone else has been led to believe. We are super, they'll
It's
show
huge. The
certain
land mass
areas.
is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a beautiful country, beautiful continent. So I hope you come here. I hope you come here one of these days. I'd love to
Be great.
absolutely take you guys around as well. It's beautiful. It's really, the people are friendly. In the 80s, we were only, I mean, we had so many sanctions against us growing up that hardly anyone was allowed to come here. No bands or anything, no musicians, no
Wow.
rock stars, no nothing. Yeah, and we were hardly allowed to travel. In fact, it was around about the mid 80s that we were finally, and that's when I left school, was in the mid 80s. And then we were finally allowed to start traveling. And I'll never forget, it was in 1989, was the first time I actually went overseas. My fiance was an Austrian. And it was just amazing to be able to see the rest of the world and to actually have people come here. And we're known to be super friendly because we love foreigners, actually. We love foreigners coming in here and hanging out and getting to know who we are and what our country is all about. So yeah, no, it's a great country and a great continent. It's really, really beautiful.
Awesome. So, kind of wrapping everything up, I want everybody to know where to find your stuff and any final words you want to say, any parting words.
Yeah, I want to just say firstly, Brock, thank you so much for having me on. It's been amazing. Yeah, my channel is Aquarius Rising Africa 2, the Roman numeral 2. And I've got solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa as well, which is more the healing, the on Aquarius Rising Africa, we interview people like Jesse Zabota, Caleb Jade. I have, as a healer, I have Kerry Saint from Australia. Also got to focus on Australia because Australia is rotten with things that go on there, very
I
bad in
know.
Australia. And Kerry Sant is an advocate for the adoptees because when we're looking at child trafficking and stuff like that, it generally begins with forced adoptions, right? And the emotional, so she's a product of that, and then the forced adoptions and the way that the kids are trafficked from that whole element. And then, of course, we have Alice Parola on, who deals with the mental health side, because with all of that and the SRA stuff and the abuse and the pedophilia and stuff, the whole mental effects that it has on people as well. Caleb Jade he was born, he's half American, sorry, half Native American, half German. And he was, because of his bloodlines and his spiritual gifts, he was taken into the Gateway experience, then into the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt, for a long time, many people didn't know whether it was truth or myth. It's very, very real. And from there, he went dark. He's one of the most well-trained US military dudes. I'm just going to leave it right there. Went through that, trained in all nine, actually 12 levels of the arcane magic. Very angry, and has come out of it and now telling his story. I've never ever heard anyone actually speak about the things. You hear people speak about it, but not that's experienced it in the way that he has and speaking about it in the way that he has. He was a mage as well, so he's very well versed in all of these things as well. So I've got some really amazing people on the channel. So yeah, it would be great to have you guys join us there as well. And I just think it's an amazing time to be alive. So I'm just loving that we are all standing together and joining arms and doing our bit. And just thank you for what you're doing as well. And thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. And I'd like to return the compliment as well. So I'd like to have you on Aquarius Rising Africa too.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, everybody be sure to check out the description. I'm going to put all of her links in there. And thank you so much, everybody, and have a very blessed day. And if you celebrate Christmas, have a blessed Christmas.
Indeed.